Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhare. Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhare. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yamunatira Vanachari. Yamunatira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhare. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yamunatira Vanachari. Yamunatira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, so this evening we are reading from the Nectar of Instruction, originally written by Srila Rupa Goswami, it's Upadesamrta, and translated by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, and commented on. So we are gradually going through this book, so there's a total of 11 verses, and we're on 7, so Syat Krishna Nama Charidari Sitapta Vidya Pito Patapta Rasanasya Na Rochikanu Kintvadarat Anudinam Kalu Saiva Jushta Swadvi Kramad Babati Tad Gadamula Hantri. So if everybody could repeat after me. Syat is Krishna of Lord Krishna. Nama, the holy name. Charita Adi, character, pastimes, and so forth. Sita, sugar candy. Api, although. Avidya, of ignorance. Pitta, by the bile. Upatapta, afflicted. Rasanasya, of the tongue. Na, not. Rochika, palatable. Nu, oh how wonderful it is. Kintu, but. Adarat, carefully. Anudinam, every day, or 24 hours daily. Kalu, naturally. Sa, that. Sugar candy of the holy name. Eva, certainly. Jushta, taken or chanted. Svadvi, relishable. Kramat, gradually. Bhavati, becomes. Tatgata, of that disease. Mula, of the root. Hantri, the destroyer. Right, translation. The holy name of Krishna, character, pastimes, and activities of Krishna are all transcendently sweet, like sugar candy. Although the tongue of one afflicted by the jaundice of avidya, ignorance, cannot taste anything sweet, it is wonderful that simply by carefully chanting these sweet names every day, a natural relish awakens within his tongue, and his disease is gradually destroyed at the root. Purport. The holy name of Lord Krishna, his quality, pastimes, and so forth, are all of the absolute nature of the nature of absolute truth, beauty, and bliss. Naturally, they are very sweet, like sugar candy, which appeals to everyone. Nescience, ignorance, however, is compared to the disease called jaundice, which is caused by bilious secretions. Attacked by jaundice, the tongue of a diseased person cannot palatably relish sugar candy. Rather, a person with jaundice considers something sweet to taste very bitter. Avidya, ignorance, similarly perverts the ability to relish the transcendently palatable name, quality, form, and pastimes of Krishna. Despite this disease, if one with great care and attention takes to Krishna consciousness, chanting the holy name and hearing Krishna's transcendental pastimes, his ignorance will be destroyed and his tongue enabled to taste the sweetness of the transcendental nature of Krishna and his paraphernalia. Such a recovery of spiritual health is possible only by the regular cultivation of Krishna consciousness. When a man in the material world takes more interest in the materialistic way of life than in Krishna consciousness, he is considered to be in a diseased condition. The normal condition is to remain an eternal servant of the Lord. Jiva Srupur Krishna Nityadas. Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela, chapter 20, text 108. This healthy condition is lost when the living entity forgets Krishna due to being attracted by the external features of Krishna's Maya energy. This world of Maya is called Durashraya, which means false or bad shelter. One who puts his faith in Durashraya becomes a candidate for hoping against hope. In the material world, everyone is trying to become happy, and although their material attempts are baffled in every way, due to their nescience, they cannot understand their mistakes. People try to rectify one mistake by making another mistake. This is the way of the struggle for existence in the material world. If one in this condition is advised to take to Krishna consciousness and be happy, he does not accept such instructions. This Krishna consciousness movement, just read one more paragraph. This Krishna conscious movement is being spread all over the world just to remedy this gross ignorance. People in general are misled by blind leaders. The leaders of human society, the politicians, philosophers, and scientists are blind because they are not Krishna conscious. According to Bhagavad Gita, because they are bereft of all factual knowledge due to their atheistic way of life, they are actually sinful rascals and are the lowest among men. Namam duskritina mudha prapadyante naradama maya pratigyana asuram bhavamashita. Those miscreants who are grossly foolish, lowest among mankind, whose knowledge is stolen by illusion, and who partake of the atheistic nature of demons, do not surrender unto me. Om Jnanativedandasya Gananjana Shulakaya Chakshulan Meditam Nena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Makam Kriravachalampangam Langayate Girim Yak Kripa Tamaham Bande Shri Gurun Dinitananam Vancha Kapdribishcha Kripa Sindhu Bhavacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Okay, translation again. The holy name, character, pastimes, and activities of Krishna are all translated into the sweet like sugar candy. Although the tongue of one afflicted by the jaundice of avidya, ignorance, cannot taste anything sweet, it is wonderful that simply by carefully chanting these sweet names every day, a natural relish awakens within his tongue, and his disease is gradually destroyed at the root. So people, people when they're sick, specifically, they're undergoing some bodily sickness. A lot of the times they have to take all types of, medicine that is unpleasant. Like people who have diabetes, for example, they have to take an insulin shot, I think it's every day, right? Shoot something. Regularly have to, shoot insulin into their, veins of their arm. And I mean, so many aspects of trying to, you could say, balance a disease or trying to get rid of a disease is just unpleasant. It's painful. First of all, the disease is painful, but then if you don't do anything about it, it becomes more and more painful. But even doing something about it, namely taking medicine or taking precautions, that could be painful in itself. Like, I'm sure a lot of the people with diabetes, they think often, I wish I didn't have to do this. Wish I didn't have to take this insulin. Or I wish I could eat some sugar. That's what sometimes people with diabetes, they want to eat something, but they can't. So, again, so much disease is like that. And a lot of the times people have to take bitter medicine. And bitter medicine is, for some, a lot of people, they really don't like it. I mean, it's bitter. It's unpleasant. Like they have in Chinese medicine, they have a bunch of teas and things like that. With all types of dry fruit and twigs and all types of stuff, and you boil it down, make a tea, and then you drink it. Extremely bitter. It doesn't taste pleasant, but it helps one's health. You have to take some bitter powder or something like that. So similarly, it's saying here that in a disease condition that of ignorance, the chanting of Krishna's name and Krishna consciousness, although by nature it's all sweet, like sugar candy, a person with this disease cannot relish it. They can't experience it. It tastes bitter to them. So in other words, they don't have much taste for it. And a lot of the times they have no taste for it at all. It's just unpleasant to them, just like bitter medicine. And this is due to ignorance. So a lot of the times, you could say devotees or practitioners, we may not, be having such a severe case of jaundice, suffering so much from this disease, but there may be times in a person's Krishna consciousness, especially in the beginning stages, whatever beginning means. There may be times where it's not as attractive as it should be. In other words, there's some aspect of it being like bitter medicine. One doesn't have a full taste for it at times. Devotees, we should understand. People should understand that if I am at all lacking attraction to Krishna consciousness, it's a disease condition. It's a disease condition of life. So how do we get rid of this disease? We have to take the medicine, even though it's bitter sometimes. It shouldn't be bitter, but if it is bitter, we still have to take it. And by taking this medicine that is actually sweet, but we're experiencing in a bitter way, we become gradually cured from our disease. And that we're able to relish Krishna consciousness just like sugar candy. We have a great taste for it. And therefore Rupa Goswami says every day, there has to be everyday cultivation. Very carefully chanting these sweet names every day, a natural relish awakens within his tongue, and his disease is gradually destroyed at the root. So if we want to fully get the benefit of Krishna consciousness, we have to do it every day. And we can't just do it every day in any way, but we have to do it every day very carefully. Because there's actually a vast difference of performance. Just because somebody's doing it every day doesn't mean they'll get the result. Just like there's so many worshippers of deities throughout India, Krishna worshippers, and specifically I'm talking about worshippers of Krishna, and they have their temples and they have their deities. They may have Radha Krishna deities. They may be Vaishnavas to some degree. And they're engaging every day, dressing the deities, offering food to the deities, but their purpose is different. Their purpose is to, get some money from the public, because once you open a temple, you have a bunch of pious Hindus, a bunch of Indians, and they'll come. And they just don't come, but they come and they give money. And if one loses sight of what Krishna consciousness is all about, then okay, great, they're coming and they're giving me money. And it could become really obscured, their vision about, they lose sight. Just like there's a particular instance where Srila Prabhupada's disciples, they published in Back to Godhead a particular section in the Chaitanya Charitamrita about the followers of Vallabhacharya, the Vallabha Sampradaya. So they published this section in the Srimad Bhagavatam, and the section in the Srimad Bhagavatam is describing how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Vallabhacharya, they were having a discussion, a meeting. What is it? Yeah. They're having a discussion, a meeting. And Vallabhacharya, as described in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, there was some pride there. And he wanted to present his explanation of the Srimad Bhagavatam, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu knew that there was some pride within him, and he didn't want to hear it. And specifically, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was really upset with Vallabhacharya because Vallabhacharya was criticizing Sridhar Swami, the original commentator on the Bhagavatam. And of course, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, "No, I don't want to hear what you have to say. You're criticizing Sridhar Swami, and I don't want to hear it." And then, so it's they're going back and forth in this section of Chaitanya Charitamrita, Vallabhacharya and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, one who does not follow the Swami, he is considered to be a prostitute. So he was, yeah, well, yeah, I'll explain that. So, so he was indirectly, but directly it was clear what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was saying to Vallabhacharya. He was calling him a prostitute or a cheater of sorts, or And the explanation is that in Vedic culture, traditional Vedic culture, husband is to the wife seen to be Swami. Swami means master. So if a husband doesn't follow her, if a wife doesn't follow her husband, Swami, okay, prostitute. So anyways, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was saying this to Vallabhacharya. And it, the conversation goes on. But this was published in a Back to Godhead magazine. And those who are followers of Vallabhacharya, hearing that, they got upset. And specifically, Sumati Maraji, the pious, devotee woman who allowed Prabhupada passage in her steamship, the Jaladuta, she heard about it. But how did she hear about it? Largely, she heard about it from these. There was a temple in Mumbai, headed by one. I'm forgetting his name right now, but headed by one. Was one of the main leaders of the Upadesamrta. He was making a big thing out of it, and then a few of other ones. God, I'm forgetting the places in India. Natwar, that's their headquarters there. So all around, they were making a big thing about it, and they were going to Sumati Maraji and saying, "Oh, ISKCON, Srila Prabhupada, they're allowing this. They're criticizing Vallabhacharya, and how dare they do this." So Sumati Maraji, she sent a letter to Srila Prabhupada, and she was really upset. Why did your disciples do this? On and on. And Srila Prabhupada, he responded to the letter, and he said that just as you are upset that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is, we quoting Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, just as you're upset that he has criticized Vallabhacharya, so similarly, we're upset that, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was upset that Vallabhacharya was criticizing Sridhar Swami, the original commentator. So in other words, it's the same thing. So you should understand that. And this is in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. We can't take this out. And then Prabhupada went on to say that Vallabhacharya and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they were friends, actually. And it said that Prabhupada said sometimes in court, two lawyers, they'll be arguing about something, but then outside of court, they're friends. So that's how Prabhupada was explaining it. And more or less, she was pacified. And but Prabhupada told the devotees, "Oh, be careful what you publish. Don't do that again." But interesting enough is that all this big commotion that was happening was largely due to some of these main leaders in the Vallabhasamrta. And they're actually heavily criticizing Prabhupada about this, quite nasty actually, what they were saying about him and ISKCON and so on. Not all of them, but a few of the main leaders were. There was one who wasn't, but so anyways, some maybe about a month or so ago passed, and all of a sudden it comes out in the news and all throughout Mumbai and Natwar and all these places that the local government, the police and so on, government officials, they raided these temples, these Vallabhacharya temples, And they found out that these head leaders of this sampradaya they had all types of hidden money and gold and all kind of hidden throughout the temple. And they said that there was love letters from these leaders and women in the congregation, and a bunch of scandals happening. And it all the whole sampradaya was like in a big turmoil from this. And they got removed from control of the temples, and they a whole another board came in. It was a big problem. And then my spiritual master, he was seeing all this happen, because he was right there, and Bombay at the time. And then he wrote Srila Prabhupada, and he said that he explained what was happening in the sampradaya, and then he said that, Srila Prabhupada, this may have been caused by them offending you, a great soul. And then he quotes some verse from the Bhagavatam, I believe, that if you criticize great souls or offend them, then you lose longevity and so many different things, opulence, all that. So, anyways, this was one example of people who were leaders of a movement, but they got sidetracked heavily, and it came out. So it's not that every day they were doing their puja, every day they were worshiping the deities, dressing the deities, maybe giving talks, whatever they were doing. They're maintaining their temples, but what were they doing on the side? So now, of course, in a lot of cases, we hope, right, things like this aren't going on, but nonetheless, we have to very carefully practice Krishna consciousness, very sincerely, seriously practice it, and not get diverted by so many things like this. And then it says here, because the natural, you could say it's not really natural, but the natural tendency within this world is to fall back into Maya. That's like the natural state of people in the world, Maya, illusion. And therefore Prabhupada says, when a man in the material world takes more interest in materialistic way of life than in Krishna consciousness, he is considered to be in disease condition. So there's so much in this world. I mean, it's the list keeps on increasing. I mean, what we could do with our time. The entertainment industry, modern technology. It just, I mean, how people could waste their time. It's becoming more. So many different ways, so many different avenues to do that. So. So the idea is that we don't want to become sidetracked into all that, because that's a disease condition of life. It's not the normal condition. The normal condition of life is, as Prabhupada quotes here, in chapter 20, Madhya Lila 108, verse 108, Jivar Srup Hoy Krishna Nitya Das, that we're all eternal servants of Krishna. And falling into this world is it's durashya, false or bad shelter. So, I mean, if you try to take shelter of a false or bad shelter, then we're in trouble if we try to do that. I mean, you try to take shelter of a house that's like just bad shelter. I mean, it's leaking, and it's the plumbing system's messed up, the electricity's messed up. I mean, you have gangsters surrounding the house. I mean, it's a false bad shelter. You don't take shelter there. So similar to this world in so many different ways, putting our faith in it's bad, false shelter. And one who puts faith in Durasha becomes a candidate for hoping against hope. Shishi Gaurata ki jai, Shishi Radha Giridhari ki jai, Shishi Jagannath Baldev Subhadra Maharani ki jai. And just like an addict, I mean, if an addict is advised, okay, give up your addiction and, enter normal life, oh no, I don't want to do it. Or sometimes these homeless people on the streets, they have these whole homeless outreach police officers, and they go and try to help them somehow, give them a job. They say, oh no, that's all right, I don't want a job, I just want to stay on the streets, right? I like living on the streets. So similarly, it says, Prabhupada says, a person is advised, oh, be Krishna conscious, be happy. Oh no, thank you, that's all right, I don't want to do it. So the Hare Krishna movement is being spread all over the world just to remedy this ignorance. So we want to partake in spreading Krishna consciousness so that we can battle this ignorance. And some people, as stubborn as they are, they will surrender. They just have to be. That's the thing. Devotees have to try to help them surrender to Krishna. And yeah, again, although they're very stubborn, devotees can, you could say, win their hearts, charm them, somehow or other attract them to Krishna consciousness. It is possible. Just like Nityananda Prabhu, he completely charmed Jagai and Madai, right? By his mercy, by his compassion, he captured their heart. In the sense that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was about to kill, I always forget who is he going to kill first.
He was going to kill...
Is it Madai or Jagai?
He was going to kill Madai.
He was going to kill Madai. So he was going to kill him. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, oh, no, stop. Please, if you kill him...
See, no, Jagai was going to hit him again. Jagai stopped him.
Yeah.
Jagai stopped Madai.
You have a micro... Yeah. So, you have a microphone? Okay. So, can someone repeat that?
The way I remember it is that Madai, of course, threw the pot.
Yes.
Shard means a piece of the pot, injured him, and then he still was preaching. The blood was flowing, and he's preaching, and then he's about to throw more, and not Jagai, he was less drunk, and he said, "No, he's a saintly person. How can you do that?" Like that.
Yeah.
And then shortly thereafter, Lord Chaitanya arrived, ready to kill Madai, and then
Nityananda.
Yeah, Nityananda stopped him and said, everyone's like that.
Yeah, Nityananda stopped Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and said, oh, if you kill him, you have to kill everyone in Kali Yuga, because everyone's more or less like them. Sinful means. So the message being that by the mercy of Lord Nityananda, these two people were saved. So they're actually, could say they were charmed. They were enchanted by Lord Nityananda's mercy. They could understand, even though they were so sinful and fallen and kind of out of it, insane. They could understand. Okay, this person is merciful. That he's helping me. So similarly, although people are mad in so many ways, like insane, nunam pramata kurute vikarma, right? That those who engage in just unrestricted sense gratification with no God consciousness, they're considered to be mad, because by engaging in that, insane, because engaging in that, then it just continues their suffering. Namely, they stay in the cycle of birth and death, reincarnation. So although they're like that, by the power of Krishna's holy name, by the power of prasadam, by the power of devotee association, people could be transformed. It is possible. It's actually quite miraculous how people are transformed. Just like we have our, which I like to get it recorded. I like Prabhupada Das in Mayapur. He has a good story about himself, but he tells it because it's his story. It's more relishable, enlivening when he tells it. So I like to record him telling that one day. Maybe when I go to Mayapur, I'll try to make a video of him telling his story. But he was young, passionate Italian boy living in Philadelphia, I believe, and he really didn't like the devotees, to say the least. He actually hated them. He thought they were foolish. He thought they were weird, just bizarre people. And he would actually make fun of them. He even said he would throw rocks at them. I mean, to throw a rock at someone, you really have to, not like them. You're really angry, hating them. Just like Jaga and Madai, I mean, he threw a rock, or they threw a little piece of chard at, piece of a pot, Lord Nityananda, so similar. And then one particular time, there was this big Irish devotee, brahmachari, and I think his name was Sulochan. That's what Prabhupada Das told me. There's many Sulochans, but... And he actually, Prabhupada... Anyway, so this Sulochan, he was trying to give a book to Prabhupada Das. And Prabhupada Das was just being his, self, and get lost, and, you foolish, Hare Krishna person, get out of here type of thing, criticizing him. And then this devotee said, Sulochan said, he said, "Oh, you know what? You're nothing but a little punk, And he just turned around and left. And then Prabhupada, he was thinking to himself, young, passionate boy in Philadelphia, he said, you know what? He's right. I am nothing but a little punk. He's true. That's right. So then he said he goes and he tries to find Prabhupada. He tries to find the devotee. So he finds him. He buys a book from him. This is in the 70s. And he reads the book and he starts coming to the temple. And he actually sees Prabhupada a few times. He said actually... He said Prabhupada stepped on a flower, because he saw him a few times, and he said he took that flower and he was eating it, Anyways, he stayed in the temple a few times, and so he's becoming a devotee. He never got initiated by Prabhupada, but, so many years he remained a devotee, and eventually he was initiated, and his name is Prabhupada Das.
By who?
By Gunagraj Swami. So, he became Prabhupada Das. And the reason he became Prabhupada Das is because he was really, still, he's really fired up about Prabhupada. I heard one devotee was telling me that in his apartment in Flagstaff, he used to live there. He said you go into his house, just like, pictures of Prabhupada everywhere, like really into Prabhupada. So therefore he got the name Prabhupada Das. And even later, because, after taking to Krishna consciousness, not that immediately... all of the bad qualities go away. Takes a little time. So he was still struggling with anger, he said. He publicly said this, so I don't think he minds. So he said he was still struggling with anger. And then he was saying, oh, how am I going to get rid of this? What am I going to do? This is just not good. It's messing up my relationships, this and that. So then he had this idea, okay, I'm just going to listen to Prabhupada all the time. So he listened to Prabhupada, when he'd wake up in the morning, when he was getting ready to go to work, when he was driving to work, when he was at work, when he was driving home, when he was, eating his dinner, while he was sleeping at night. He'd have Prabhupada playing lectures, in kirtans, Prabhupada. And he said that Prabhupada's transcendental voice and his, intensity and, the message after some time, hearing like this, he said he felt like this, like Prabhupada did like an exorcism on him. And this anger, this ghost of anger just, left him. So he felt free, So, and now, he's still a devotee, and now he's retired, and he's living in Sri Dham Mayapur, holy, one of the most holy places in the world. So it didn't look so good for him in the beginning. I mean, throwing rocks at devotees. I mean, that's not just good. I think that's Vaishnava aparad, That's offending. That's offending devotees. Yeah, because there's different aparads, right? You could offend devotees by and in the mind. You could offend devotees by speaking, ill about them, criticize them. You could offend devotees by physically attacking them. There's also offense to the devotees. If you're not happy to see a particular devotee, that's considered to be offense. And someone was describing that. Oh, why is that? How's that offense? Oh, you're not happy to see someone. So what? What's the offense? And this devotee was explaining that. Well, if you're not happy to see someone, that means largely, in most cases, that before you saw that person, you were either talking ill about them, so therefore when you see them, you're not very happy to see them, or you're thinking ill of them, right? So therefore when you see them, you're not happy to see them. Makes sense, right? But if you're talking about someone in a nice way, glorifying them or appreciating them, right? Like you're one of your great friends or something, or you say, oh, Kanai Balai, he's, every week for so many years, right? He's been cooking breakfast for devotees, and you're glorifying him, right? And then, when he's not there, right? And then when he walks in the room, oh hey, Kanai Balai, we're just thinking about you, how nice you are. But if you're, oh well, he's like this, he's like that, I can't believe he said this, I can't believe he said that. And then he walks in the room, and you're kind of like, oh man, I don't want to see this guy again, So that. So yeah, that's considered offense too. So vice versa, we should protect devotees, not attack them. Physically, we should be happy to see devotees. We should think well of devotees, or think nicely of devotees, and speak of them, in a good way. So yeah, but Prabhupada, it wasn't looking good for him. He was physically throwing rocks. To get the anger and the frustration of your mind and your senses and your consciousness, to grab your hand, pick up a rock from the ground, and just with force just throw it. That's like means you're. So it wasn't looking good. But there you go. By the mercy of this devotee, Sulochana, Bhakti Shabhuta, Brahmachari, he was helped greatly. And so it is possible, even if it doesn't look good for some people. All right, so does anybody have any questions or comments at this point? Dennis, Glennis, Alex, can I? All right. So I'll just continue with the purport. Such people never surrender to Krishna, and they oppose the endeavor of those who wish to take Krishna's shelter. When such atheists become leaders of society, the entire atmosphere is surcharged with nescience, ignorance. In such a condition, people do not become very enthusiastic to receive this Krishna-conscious movement, just as a diseased person suffering from jaundice does not relish the taste of sugar candy. Period. However, one must know that for jaundice, sugar candy is the only specific medicine. Similarly, in the present confused state of humanity, Krishna consciousness, the chanting of the holy name of the Lord, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, is the only remedy for setting the world aright. All right, there it is, the only remedy. So Harinam. But we can't go now, but hopefully soon. See, I think that it seems that a natural occurrence of the particular state of the world that we're experiencing right now, and specifically speaking from the perspective of devotees, all devotees throughout the world practically are locked up. I mean, you get a taste, or we get a taste of how it must be to live in societies or countries like China, for example. To be a devotee in China is not easy. You can't go out on Harinam. Of course, because they've never experienced going out on Harinam, which is, I mean, can you imagine that? You could say, oh, there's no experience of going out on the streets and chanting Hare Krishna. Because, so you could maybe say they're not missing it, but for those of us throughout the world who have the opportunity to regularly go out on book distribution or Harinam, and for it just to be stopped, it's challenging, So it seems that a natural occurrence of this throughout the world is that once things become lifted, that there's going to be a bit of a Hare Krishna explosion, which means that devotees all over the world who are been restricted, from Harinam and book distribution, they're just going to, all right, here we go, and just launch out, So that's a good thing. So and this is the remedy, as Prabhupada says, the only remedy for setting the world aright. Although Krishna consciousness may not be very palatable for a diseased person, Rupa Goswami nonetheless advised that if one wants to be cured of the material disease, he must take to it with great care and attention. One begins his treatment by chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, because by chanting this holy name of the Lord, a person in the material condition will be relieved from all misconceptions. Cheto Darpana Marjanam. Avidya, a misconception about one's spiritual identity, provides the foundation for ahankar, or false ego, within the heart. The real disease is in the heart. If the mind is cleansed, however, if consciousness is cleansed, a person cannot be harmed by the material disease. To cleanse the mind and heart from all misconceptions, one should take to this chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. This is both easy and beneficial. By chanting the holy name of the Lord, one is immediately freed from the blazing fire of material existence, anxiety. There are 3 stages in chanting the holy name of the Lord: the offensive stage, the stage of lessening offenses, and the pure stage. When a neophyte takes to the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra, he generally commits many offenses. There are 10 basic offenses, and if the devotee avoids these, he can glimpse the next stage, which is situated between offensive chanting and pure chanting. When one attains the pure stage, he is immediately liberated. This is called Bhava Mahadavagni Nirvarpanam. As soon as one is liberated from the blazing fire of material existence, he can relish the taste of transcendental life. The conclusion is that in order to get freed from the material disease, one must take to the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra. The Krishna consciousness movement is especially meant for creating an atmosphere in which people can take to the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra. One must begin with faith, and when this faith is increased by chanting, a person can become a member of the society. We're sending Sankirtan parties all over the world, and they're experiencing that even in the remotest part of the world where there is no knowledge of Krishna, the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra attracts thousands of men to our camp. In some areas, people begin to imitate the devotees by shaving their heads and chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Only a few days after hearing the mantra, that's pretty interesting. Devotees must have told Prabhupada, oh yeah, these people are imitating us, shaving their... I mean, that's pretty far, going pretty far to imitate, Hare Krishna's, okay, I'm going to shave my head. And, one thing, you have somebody join the party and they're, laughing and smiling and joking or something, but, they start shaving their head and, it's kind of... So that's a pretty high stage of imitation. This may be imitative, but imitation of a good thing is desired. Some imitators gradually become interested in being initiated by the spiritual master and offer themselves for initiation. It's like Prabhupada went to Africa, and he was Chasing Rhinos with the Swami by Shyamasundar Prabhu. Shyamasundar Prabhu explains how him and Prabhupada went to Africa, and how Prabhupada was telling Brahmananda that, who was one of the main preachers there in Africa, or the main, he was the main preacher there in Africa. He was telling him at the time, he was saying that we can't just preach to the Indians, because there's some Indians there. Prabhupada saying we have to preach to the locals. And then Brahmana said, oh, well, Prabhupada, and I don't know how they're going to come, this and that. So Prabhupada said, you rent a hall in the particular part of town where all the locals are, and you open up the doors, and you have kirtan, and we'll have kirtan and prasad, and then filled up, and Nairobi. And it worked. People came, chanting, dancing, get prasadam, heard Prabhupada's talk. But specifically, I'm remembering how Shyamasundar and a few other devotees, I forgot who they were at the time, but he was saying how, and they're all, white, how they're all going out, and they're doing Harinam in a park. And he said that, the locals were walking by with spears, right? Spears. Yeah, spears, and he said that one person they're walking by, I don't know, they just went hunting, they're walking by with some, dead animal, and they're a little freaked out, because they're thinking, we're like a bunch of white bald guys, and, we're here in the heart of Africa, and, there's no, and so they're okay, let's do Harinam. So, they started doing Harinam in the park, and people started gathering, they're chanting, dancing with him, and they said that Brahmananda, he held up his danda, which is a long, bamboo rod with, saffron cloth, that sannyasis have. So he held up his danda in the air, and Shyamasundar Prabhu was saying, he felt that Brahmananda was holding up his hand, putting his danda in the air, like saying, I have a spear too, like, here you go, So it worked. It was a success. They made it back to the temple. So, Prabhupada sending Sankirtan parties all over the world. And this is a way to help the situation, help people. And then when people become interested, when people become, start developing faith, they get initiated by the bona fide spiritual master, engage in the process of chanting the holy name, and then anartha nivritti, the dirty things from their heart are being cleansed, and then gradually they're developing love of God by carefully chanting the holy names of the Lord every day, which by definition, if one does, they will make their way to different stages. Offensive stage, in which, the 10 offenses, if you're not familiar, we chant them every single morning. And if you can't be here, you'll hear them if you tune in. And so the offensive stages, we're committing offenses, those offenses. And then clearing stages, those we're starting to become clear from those. And then there's a pure stage, which we're not committing any offenses. So that we want to make it to, and if we carefully engage in Krishna consciousness, we can. And Prabhupada says that although Maya may be present, it cannot disturb a devotee once he attains the bhava stage. Love of God. The preliminary stage of love of God. This is because the devotee can see the real position of Maya. Maya means forgetfulness of Krishna, and forgetfulness of Krishna and Krishna consciousness stand side by side, like light and shadow. So when you turn off a light switch, what happens? Immediately it becomes dark, right? You don't have to call the darkness to come. You don't have to say, oh, hey, darkness, can you please come? No, immediately it comes. So as soon as we forget Krishna, then immediately darkness comes, ignorance comes. We don't have to call for it. Immediately Maya is there. If one remains in the shadow, he cannot enjoy the facilities offered by light. And if one remains in light, he cannot be disturbed by the darkness of shadow. By taking to Krishna consciousness, one gradually becomes liberated and remains in light. Indeed, he does not even touch the darkness, as confirmed in Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila, chapter 22, text 31. Krishna Surya Sama Maya Hoya Andakar Yahan Krishna Tahan Nahi Mayar Adhikar. Krishna is compared to sunshine, and Maya is compared to darkness. Wherever there is sunshine, there cannot be darkness. As soon as one takes to Krishna consciousness, the darkness of illusion, the influence of the external energy, will immediately vanish. And that ends the purport. So yes, we should carefully take to the chanting of the holy name, and in this way we could experience the real nature of the holy name, which is sweet, like sugar candy, and gradually that will manifest. So does anybody have any, I guess it'd be good if we could check and see if anybody has any questions or comments online, but can you check that, Alex? And tomorrow is Balaram Purnima, the appearance day of Lord Balaram, and Trivita Prabhu will be giving the morning talk, Lord Balaram. So yeah, so he's going to read the pastime, one of his favorite pastimes of Dvavida. Yeah. And gorilla, and and also it's a half-day fast. Not very difficult, just half day. It's not like full day. Krishna requires full day apparently. Balaram's half day, and then we'll meet here for kirtan at 12, and then there'll be a feast, prasadam, to break the fast. I don't know about in the evening. I mean, we generally have a festival in the evening, but anyways, I guess we'll. All right. So, is there anything, Glenn? Who's that?
Those bhakti names are hard. All right. Daksabat, that's Dhanavari.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dhanavari. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. Thank you, Dhanavari. Okay. All right. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.